Mallory Tauti took a photo of me when, after being newly shaved. The response was crazy. So I was like, oh, wow. You know what? It made me feel a way. I was like, I would love to photograph some of the butterflies.
Breast cancer, it isn't pretty. It's ugly. And at times you feel ugly. What are you going through? Being a part of the photo shoot, it got a chance to capture the beauty outside, but remind me how beautiful I am inside as well.
You might not feel as womanly or as beautiful as you are, but us looking at you, different story.
Welcome to episode number 23.
23
of
What's Brewing Sis?
I'm Shelly.
I'm Bianca.
And I'm Deonna. And here we come together to serve the brew.
Absolutely.
We are back and rocking our pink.
Yes. So,
as we know, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Yes.
So we dedicate this episode to the survivors, to the thrivers, to those who are currently in treatment, especially those newly diagnosed, and those who have transitioned on and gained their heavenly wings.
Yeah.
So we have a number of guests today. We're super excited about the show. We're going to get right into it. So first introduction is Tasha Joyner.
Tasha C. Joyner was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2003 when her son was only 8 months old. 19 years later, Tasha continues to thrive and bring vision to a culture that looks only skin deep. The removal of a breast has many challenges for a woman. After 5 years of treatment, Tasha wanted to thank her husband for honoring his vow of, in sickness and in health, by presenting him with a portrait of love. Charles decided to be in the picture with her to show the power of love. This picture launched a campaign of celebrating life after cancer, and the Tasha C. Joyner Foundation was born. The Tasha C. Joyner Foundation is a not-for-profit organization founded in 2008. Its primary mission is to empower, inspire, and encourage survivors to celebrate life by reducing the barriers in their treatment options. TCJF helps newly diagnosed women make informed healthcare decisions by being an advocate for them and identifying gaps in service delivery by offering viable solutions and options during treatment plans. The Tasha C. Joyner Foundation delivers the message that the breast does not define a woman, and the foundation is designed to redefine beauty to let every woman know that just because they have lost their breasts, they are no less of a woman. Their beauty is the shell that carries them through this life. It is their spirit that makes them who they are.
Oh my.
Good
That
morning.
was a beautiful introduction. Oh my gosh. I'm like, who is that woman?
Well, we're so happy that you're here with us today, Tasha. I can't thank you enough. I think I've told you before, but I had a friend whose name spelled one letter different to yours who gained her heavenly wings from breast cancer just a few weeks after I was diagnosed. And it was just like so ironic that your names were spelled so close together, one letter difference, switch an L and the T, it's the same name. And it was just like a reminder to me that God is always present. So even when our sisters take flight, there's always another sister to, keep us grounded. So thank you, Tasha.
Thank you, Deonna. Thank you.
And we actually want to give you a special thank you as well because basically a little bit more of Deonna's story. She kind of got all of her friends together, family as well, and let us know about the news. So we, even though it was pretty heavy news, we felt like there are so much things that we don't know. So we were so glad that she found you guys. And was able to connect with you because there were things that we couldn't tell her that you guys could.
Yeah.
So we're just so thankful that she had the butterflies in her corner this entire process because I think it helped to keep her fighting for sure.
Yeah. So just before we bring up the other ladies, Tasha, can you just tell us a little bit in your own words what inspired you to use your story to help others?
Wow. As you mentioned, my baby was 8 months old when I was diagnosed. So I did not have the outlet when I was first diagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
I came home after surgery, after a 9-hour surgery. I came home to a newborn baby. I came home to visitors. I came home to reading mail and cards, but I did not have a chance to fully emotionally, psychologically, and mentally heal from what I experienced. And with that said, after taking that portrait that you displayed, I said, we need to do something for newly diagnosed women so they can have an outlet.
Yeah.
And hence the retreat house was born and the butterflies was born because of the metamorphosis of losing your hair and losing weight and gaining weight and just having a plethora of things going on in your mind. You're going through a metamorphosis. So that's what inspired me to make sure that every woman who gets diagnosed, who are looking for a place to retreat, they have a place to come within the butterfly garden.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And we so need it and so appreciate it.
Yeah.
One other thing I'll mention is that it was my aunt who connected me to Tasha. She sent me a message after that family Zoom and said, "Can I share your information with my friend?" I was resistant. I sat on it for a month, but I'm so glad that I, decided to allow her to extend my information to Tasha. And then, like, once we started talking, it felt like I've known her my whole life. So,
Yeah.
Thank you, Tasha. Next, we're going to introduce a very special butterfly. She's actually an honorary butterfly, but we'll just let the introduction let you know who she is.
Yolanda Ross, actress, writer, director, producer, and all-around spectacular talent, is a native of Omaha, Nebraska. An independent film darling, Yolanda made her feature film debut in the award-winning film Stranger Inside in 2001. She has a long list of accolades and work that exhibit her talents and strengths as the phenomenal being that we have come to know, love, and cherish. When Yolanda learned that her character, Jada, the no-nonsense single mother of the critically acclaimed ShowTime series, The Chi, created by Lena White, was going to be diagnosed with breast cancer, she immersed herself in the fight against breast cancer. She decided to learn all that she could about Black women and breast cancer. What started out as research for the show inspired the Beauteous Me project, and Yolanda got deeply involved in Chicago's women of color breast cancer survivor community. She collaborated with 3 remarkable Chicago organizations that support women's health. While Yolanda does not have breast cancer, she has elevated the voices of women walking this journey daily. She is an honorary butterfly, Miss Yolanda Ross.
Good morning, Yolanda.
That was crazy. I was like, geez, I mean, y'all, I was not expecting that. Yana, who told me? You didn't tell me you was a producer.
I am not. That would be Shelly. Shelly is our marketing graphic designer, all those things. Not me.
Wow. She kept quiet while I was putting that event together, but I couldn't.
I did. I like to stay out of the way.
Wow. Y'all are amazing. This is really really nice. It is so, I don't know, like y'all are stuck with me. I'll just say that. Y'all are stuck with me.
It's a good place to be stuck.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
You're like good company.
Definitely. I mean, I feel like I got 5 sisters. You know what I mean? And it's like we weren't born together. This art brought me to you guys, and literally y'all being open enough to, trust me, with you, with your image, with your bodies, with your, with your everything, to photograph you and to do this whole thing. I thank you. I thank you all for letting me just be with you.
Yes, and Yolanda, I was like only a few months out of surgery. Like I actually didn't have breasts during that event, but I have fillers make it look like I had breasts at the time. I was completely flat, so I was definitely like in a very vulnerable space. But you really helped me to be comfortable with my discomfort and see the beauty. The power of makeup and costume is like.
I mean, it to me it was fun. I was super stressed because I was like, you kept letting me know you had to be out at a certain time. I was like, okay, I have to move out of here, da 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 da, because I wasn't trying to take up people's time, make them late for work, do any of that kind of stuff. But it was just like, it was amazing just to see everybody just sort of like transform and take it on. I mean, y'all were just like killing it. You know what I mean? Just killing it. It was just like, I don't know. I really couldn't think of any other title but Beauty is Me, because when I think of the photos, think of how y'all looked in the rooms, and just what y'all were giving, it was just like, wow, wow. I still just beautiful, just beautiful.
If you could just give our audience, our brew crew, as we affectionately call our audience members, Yolanda, just talk about what happened. How did getting into character snowball into the entire Beauty is Me project?
So, it's like when I do work, I want to make sure I'm doing portraying people accurately. And for me, as far as our show, The Shy, it was the first time I really got to get into something. You know what I mean, as far as characters. So, I lost people to cancer, lost an aunt, I lost a dear friend, and I knew some things, but I didn't know a lot of little things. So I wanted to talk to women and be around women that had gone through or were going through that journey. Because when people write stuff for a TV show or film or whatever, they sometimes don't put all the details. In our show, it's a show, so you got an hour, you got 40 minutes to get a bunch of characters like stories out, and they're not going to go into a lot of details. So I wanted to make sure I was able to physically do as much as I could or add to it wherever I could to make sure that Black women who were going through this, women in general, but Black women specifically, saw themselves. Because,
Hmm.
sorry, as far as TV, I don't know of any other characters that really were going through it that I've seen go through it in a real way, because I didn't want to just one day, have a scarf on my head, and then by the end of the episode, take the scarf off, suddenly all my hair is there, and da 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 da. It's
Right.
like I wanted it to be real, because that's life changing. That's life
Hmm.
changing. So, as much as I could find out, I started with Melissa Simon at I think it's Northwestern, and she got me in touch with everybody, everybody. So I was like, and this was also during like the beginnings of COVID, so it was a kind of funny time with meeting up with people, in person. I was able to come down to Tasha's event and be with Butterfly. So I did that, and and got in touch with Tasha and everything, and it was really great to be amongst the women, and then like all the women that were online, because there were only a few in the room,
Hmm.
so many women online, and just hear the questions, just like what you were saying before. It's like maybe, even though you're going through it, you don't know everything.
And then like your family members might not know everything, how to deal with certain things. And Tasha's the butterflies, there is such a wealth of information there, and people helping each other because they know which doctors to go to, who does what people to see to help you get into people, all that kind of stuff. Because I mean, it's not every day people get diagnosed, but when you do, that's a huge shock. And
Absolutely.
I think one thing that stood out for me when Deonna was going through this journey is she asked for a second opinion. And so I think that's one hidden factor in this as well. Like women don't realize that, hey, you don't have to deal with the first doctor that's giving you a diagnosis.
Mhm.
You could dive into it a little bit more and learn more, I guess, about the topic, see what other options you have out there.
And that too was a surprise to me. And I'm like, what do you mean second opinion? The doctor said you need to
Right.
do whatever. And she's like, no, I'm going to this person. I'm going to see this person. I'm going to weigh my options and see who's going to work for me.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times in the health field, and this is definitely a topic for another day too, that they don't give you the same type of care and treatment as a Black woman, and your pain isn't felt as a Black woman in the health industry.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, a lot of women suffer, a lot of Black women suffer in the healthcare industry because they're not getting the right treatment or the same treatment as their white counterparts.
Right.
Sure.
Well, often we're just not heard. Sometimes you express a symptom and it's kind of brushed off and dismissed, and you're not even given the right test right away, or you're misdiagnosed. But yes, being that I work on the insurance side of healthcare, I actually ended up with 3 opinions because my second opinion, I didn't like the attitude of the doctor, so they got fired real quick. So it was, but I asked the first doctor, if it was your mother, your sister, who would you trust to give them a second opinion? And she happened to be an African American woman. If she hadn't been a part of the team that I ultimately went with, I would could have had her as the oncologist, but her additional team members just didn't sit well with me. So, but she gave me the institutions that she would trust her family members to go to. And she broke it down for me, like, this facility, you're going to see the actual doctor. This facility, you're going to see a lot of residents and assistants. But if you want that personal relationship with your doctors, I would recommend going this route. So I certainly appreciate her, and I found the right team. So that's what was most important.
But see, that in itself is something a lot of times we don't go through that process. And that's huge because, it's like your friend said there, it's like sometimes we just take first opinions. It's like, no, let's ask somebody else as well. We got to take that time because we are that important. It's not something to play with, your health, your life. So, I what you just said as far as doctors not paying attention to our symptoms, what we're saying, that's something that became a whole big topic as I got to know, everybody and started to get more into the healthcare, what women were going through as far as like seeing doctors for this or for anything. I literally just like a woman hit me up, 28-year-old. She went to the doctors and they thought she had like a digestive problem. It ended up being colon cancer. And it's like nobody was looking. Nobody, like you said, nobody giving you the right tests. Nobody's really, really like trying to find out what the problem is. They just diagnose you with something and send you home.
Yeah.
And that's something that really became clear is a huge problem with healthcare.
Yeah.
So
so best to ask questions. I have a question for both you and Yolanda in regards to the process when you, Yolanda, shave your hair. What was that like for you, Tasha, the hair loss process of breast cancer?
So fortunately for me, I did not lose my hair. I did not have to have chemotherapy where you go through the traditional forms of losing your hair. However, I took 5 years of medication called tamoxifen, which had different side effects from the chemo. It's an oral chemo. So without losing my hair, what happened to me is I developed cysts all over my ovaries that ruptured. I developed my teeth loosened from my gums, and I developed a small bowel obstruction. So those who lost their hair to chemo, that was their side effects. My side effects was taking oral chemo with the side effects that I just mentioned.
Wow. And Yolanda, did you go back and forth with that decision to shave your hair on the show, or was it like you made up your mind and that's what you were gonna do for the character?
It was a mixed thing, because when they first told me about it, I wanted to see how supportive the show was with, because it's like I'm still an actor, so I got to get jobs afterwards, and I'm not used to not having hair, and the world of entertainment is not used to that either. So I just wanted to see how supportive they were with the after, helping me afterwards with things. And it came down to, I held off for a moment, and as we were doing the season, and then our hair person who lost 2 sisters to breast cancer, she just called me one day and asked, and I was like, yes. So then it was like, there was like no thought, and then it was just yes. It's just like that, because at that point I was going through the motions of to make sure that Black women saw themselves truthfully, so that all together just made it happen.
To bring up the next butterfly, Miss Shanette Kaywood.
Shanette Kaywood is a Chicago native. Her journey with breast cancer began in 2012 at the age of 33 with a stage 4 breast cancer diagnosis. Instead of allowing her diagnosis to take control, Shanette took the reins and began to control the narrative of her own journey in ways of advocacy work and mentoring others also going through a diagnosis. Shanette has learned through her journey with cancer, this story isn't about her, it's about inspiring others.
Good morning. How are you today?
Thank you. Thank you for that beautiful intro. I loved it.
Absolutely.
And thanks for joining the conversation. Can you just remind our audience of your initial diagnosis?
My initial diagnosis was 10 years ago on Monday, which is,
wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of emotions happening with me right now. So if I start tearing up, just let me just go with
it. Okay.
We're all friends.
We're sitting in our virtual.
It was 10 years ago, and it was stage 4 from the beginning. So once I went in, the prognosis wasn't good. The cancer had already spread to my liver and to my spine. So it was a thing where everything had to be reactive, and we had to move quick with procedures and treatments as far as what we wanted to do. So going in, like before the story actually began, a few years before I was actually diagnosed, I went in because I knew I had a lump in my breast, but it was really small. I was barely 30 at the time, and I went in and I just got an ultrasound. And because I was not 30, I didn't get a mammogram. They didn't suggest it, and nor did I think about it because I was so young at the time, and breast cancer doesn't run in my family. So I never thought like it can be cancerous. Right. So fast forward a couple of years after that, the lump had gotten larger, and I went back in again to get another ultrasound. And I was pretty much told the same thing by the primary physician. It was just a cyst. So I was told it was just a cyst. I was told to schedule an appointment for outpatient to go in and have the cyst drained, and everything should be fine, and then follow up later. And how it happened was I went in for outpatient to have it drained. And as soon as I took off my shirt without even touching me, the doctor there, she looked at me and she's like, no, that's not a cyst. So that day, October 24th, 10 years ago, my life completely changed. That same day, I went in by myself. They sent me down for a mammogram, which I had never had one, an ultrasound, and a biopsy, all within that same day. So imagine thinking you're just going to have this procedure done. I had stuff planned afterwards, and you hear this news. So it was the most devastating day thus far.
Yeah, for sure. One thing that touched me for sure about your story is it's kind of like all of the worst news that you could think. It's like it's not stage 1, it's stage 4. You know, it's like what else do I have to go through? But I just feel your story is going to help so many women, because if it's the same story or a similar story, it's like, well, if she was able to make it through, I know that I will be able to make it through too. So I just find that so beautiful about your story. So thank you for sharing that with our audience.
And Shanette definitely did not let that prognosis stop her from living. Tell us some of the things you've done over the last 10 years. I know you took a trip. You've taken multiple trips. You started running. Like, cool. let our audience know how you've been living.
I've been controlling the narrative. That's how I've been getting through. My kids say I'm controlling, but of course they're going to say that I'm supposed to control you. So I had to kind of grab the reins and run with it. I started being more active. I joined a running group where I was actively in treatment. Had to change my mindset to more positive thinking. I had to get rid of anything that brought me stress, that, made me unhappy. It was just a complete lifestyle, physical. It was a physical and mental change. So I started, I became a mentor, because for me, helping others, talking to them, getting through, it helped in a weird kind of way. It helped me feel better about what I was going through, knowing that for me, it was a purpose. It wasn't for me. It was about me. But this story, and I still say this to this day, it was never about me. It was for other people to see how my journey ends and what's become of me through the journey. I actually took a 2-week trip to South Africa, going through cancer, because, there it's a stigma. And when they see you with cancer, they just think the worst. It's like, they don't want to talk to you. They don't want to befriend you. You're considered just something horrible, as if it's your fault. So just going there, being on that journey, going in hospitals, sitting with patients while they were receiving their treatments, and even visiting homes of people in South Africa, just sitting there and listening to their stories and praying with them and talking to them. It really gave me a complete sense of purpose about my life, and it made me realize, how selfish we can be in certain situations. And I just became more open to everything, and just more exposed to so much more within this life and everything that I had been through inside this cancer journey.
Yeah,
so powerful.
And the power I take from that is you didn't stop living.
Yeah.
You decided, hey, whether it's called, the kids think it's control or not, you definitely said, I'm going to take life by the horns, and I'm going to, still live and do everything that I want to do. And then here we are 10 years later.
Yeah.
So,
and throw the trip to Africa.
And look fabulous while doing it.
Okay? That's on a lot of people's radar, and it was never on my radar. And I didn't know anyone there that I went with. It was with the group. So I flew there by myself. And when I got there, I met up with 15 people, strangers at that time, but now they're like family. And when I told people what I were doing, especially my grandmother, are you crazy? You going to another country? What and for what? I'm like, I have to do it. I just knew I would be okay. But even from that moment, I was diagnosed and I left the hospital and I hit the floor. I blacked out. People always ask me, how did you know you was going to be okay? I can't explain it, but something within me just told me, you got this and you're going to be okay. Yeah. And that's always been in the back of my mind. Even now, through the worst of times, when I go through my moments, it's something in me that tells me I'm going to be okay. And I just keep going with that. I keep going with that through anything stressful. I just have that in the back of my mind. This time is coming and it's going, and you're going to be okay.
Yes, it's testament to that, men's extremities is just God's, possibilities, like just getting started. Like, the diagnosis and the prognosis, that is based on science and facts and all of those things. But, you know, we know that there's a difference between facts and truth. That's something my spiritual leaders taught me, that the facts are the facts. Yes, this is the diagnosis, this is the prognosis. But the truth is that God has his own timing that man cannot define. So you can give me whatever prognosis you want. If I still got work to do, I'm still gonna be here until God says, "Come on in." Like, you know, so we are, you know, here with you to celebrate the 10 years.
Yes.
And the next 10 years and the next 10 years.
Right. Yes.
We just went to Vegas, so we're gonna take it up a notch. Got things bigger.
So we have a couple more ladies to bring up. Next, we're gonna bring up Miss Adrienne Upchurch.
Adrienne Upchurch, warrior and survivor. Adrienne's breast cancer diagnosis showed up during the height of COVID-19, when you could not bring anyone to the hospital with you. Adrienne was alone, but not afraid. It will be 2 years in December from walking this precarious journey of double mastectomy, chemotherapy, and subsequent reconstruction surgery. Adrienne sees herself as merely being a vessel. Her story has ushered in a season of light and love, and she remains an open book for women and some men who have to make the tough decisions and press their way to the best outcome for a healthy recovery. Adrienne knows that she is blessed with a strong and supportive village, and she is grateful every day. Adrienne Upchurch.
Good morning, Adrienne.
Good morning, butterflies.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for the invite. October is certainly a heightened awareness month. And as Shanette mentioned, so full of emotions. There's highs and lows. So I'm happy to be here with everyone this morning.
Yes, and we're happy you're here with us. And I know you can remember our gala and preparing for it. Me and Adrienne were like, we're the rookies on this poster.
Oh my God. We definitely were. I think the photo shoot was maybe 4 days after I rang the bell. I had just finished chemo. I literally slid out of the chemo chair right into the photo shoot. So it was very, very, very trippy. Yeah.
So Adrienne, tell us a little bit about how it's been now that we're not as rookie as we were during the project.
Right. Feeling definitely more like a veteran. I would have to say that these last 2 years, I kind of call my journey a wheel in the middle of a wheel. So the world was going through so much with COVID and the unknown and isolation, separation, a lot of trauma. And in between that was woven my little story. And I say my little story because I'm not unique in any way. I was a woman who, have breast cancer history on both sides of the family. I had taken the BRCA test, so I knew that I had the gene mutation. My mom was a survivor. I had 3 first cousins, all survivors. And somewhere in the back of my mind, because I've been getting mammograms and aggressive breast ultrasounds and MRIs since I was 30. They recommended 10 years or so before, my mom's diagnosis, and she was diagnosed at 45. And so for me, I always had considered myself a breast zealot. And when I got the call Monday after work, I hadn't even taken my coat off, and my doctor called. I could tell in her voice, I already knew. And I immediately jumped to what stage is it and what's our plan? I'm very fortunate. My breast surgeon is African-American woman, and she had talked with me on so many levels about what happens in the Jewish community with women, the care that white women give. So we had already had that rapport, and it made such a difference in the trust factor, because literally I couldn't have anybody with me. I only had my surgeon. And in those moments, she was my sister, my pastor, my best friend. She had to be everything because I could take notes. But you know, when you are hearing that your life is altered for life, you're not taking copious notes. You can barely remember your own name. I'm like, oh, I hope I remember where I parked my car. It's a lot. It's a lot that happens.
Sure.
Can I ask a question? Can you and Deonna like say who your doctors are to let people know, like, you know, because that's a thing in itself. Like, who did you see? You know, since you both seem like you had trusted your doctors, you know,
yes.
when you went on that journey.
Well, definitely for me, I see Dr. Jilma Patrick, and she is out of Little Company of Mary Hospital. OSF is their new merger, and she's phenomenal. I mean, aside from her bedside manner, definitely very knowledgeable and very proactive, very assertive in getting these tests, getting these labs, and checking up, following up, having her team follow up. And so by the time I made the decision, immediately I was stage 1. The tumor was very, very small, but I made the decision to have double mastectomy, just from my mental standpoint. I knew that I just couldn't go through the anguish every 6 months of wondering, did they get enough tissue out? Is it going to come back? What are we going to do? So for me, we ran with it. So from the date of diagnosis, I probably was in surgery maybe 10 days later. 10 days later. So Dr. Jilma Patrick was and is definitely phenomenal.
Yeah.
For me, I got the initial diagnosis with Loyola's Breast Cancer Center. Dr. Robinson, I believe her first name is Paula or Paulette. She is phenomenal. I would recommend those who are near or work with Loyola Health System to see her. She is a African American oncologist, yes. Then I ultimately had my treatment with the University of Chicago, led by the surgeon there who's phenomenal, Dr. Jakowziak, which I might say her name wrong, but we call her Dr. J. She was the first member of their team that I saw, and she is amazing. She definitely takes her time with her patients to give you the knowledge, draw diagrams, write it out, whatever works for you. And she doesn't rush you through the process. The oncologist there that I saw is Dr. Nanda, who's also phenomenal. And my plastic surgeon was great too, but she left University of Chicago. And me and Shanette actually had the same
You had the same care team.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh wow.
And I was initially
Shanette, I'm sorry, I forgot her name.
Which one?
The surgeon, the plastic surgeon.
Was it Dr. Garza?
Yeah, Dr. Garza.
Dr.
So
Garza. Yeah.
She's now in private practice, so she's still available. She's just done with the University of Chicago.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And I wasn't diagnosed at University of Chicago. I was diagnosed at Rush. And for me, I didn't like the bedside manner of when I was told I was the first diagnosed. To me, it was too casual and there wasn't much compassion with it. And I just wasn't feeling it. My spirit and the vibe, it wasn't comfortable for me. And when I went to the University of Chicago, Dr. Nanda, as Deonna has stated, she's simply amazing. And I feel as though with her, it's not just a patient-doctor relationship. She actually listens to you and she gives you her opinion and lets you decide on what's best. And the same with Dr. Just the Skobiak, the breast surgeon, the same. She draw her little diagrams, send you home with stuff. It's like, oh, just think about it, or call me or text me with any questions. And then for me, when it comes to the scans, most people, when they have their scans, they don't get them back for a couple of days or, a week. With my physician, with the physicians there, a lot of times before I've made it home, my doctor is already emailing or letting me know the results are in and everything is looking good, or if it's not looking good. So just that alone it meant a whole lot to me to have that care team that I feel is there 24/7 when you need them.
Yeah. And I feel like Dr. J's memory is amazing. Like she remembered everything I said, like even things I said about my family dynamics. And I'm like, I know I'm not her only patient. So it's like, how do you store all this information? But she's thorough and it's like, yeah, she's amazing. I hope she doesn't retire anytime in the next 300 years.
300 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is important. You know, as you guys were all speaking, I was just sitting here kind of like having not an outer body experience. Like, if this was me and I walked in, I had a lump and they said it was a cyst, and you know, I'm going there, minding my business, got plans later, I'm going to lunch with my friends, whatever. How would I take it? Like that's just, you know, I don't even have words. Like I was just like that these stories are just so powerful. And I think more women need to hear it because the problem is there's such a fear of doctors in our community, of getting tested, of getting your mammogram, that a lot of people just don't do it. They're like, well, if I don't do it, I won't, you know, nothing bad is going to happen to me if I just don't do it.
Yeah.
And I just, you know, think it needs to be more, you know, talked about in our community so more people who just feel comfortable, like you have a friend, a girl, I'll go with you, like let's go together. We can schedule on the same day, you know, and go in together. And
definitely, like for me, I'm you know, naturally an introvert. I really don't talk to people unless they talk to me. I'm like a one-on-one conversationalist. I'll talk to anybody one-on-one, but I definitely don't like step up to be the one to be in front of the crowd. But after being diagnosed, like that same year, I couldn't help it. In October, I was asking every random woman I came across, like, did you get your mammogram this year? And I was openly sharing with them, like, I got diagnosed with my first routine mammogram. I was 40 years old. Nothing happened. I wasn't feeling sick. I didn't feel a lump. I just turned 40. And it was during the pandemic, so I didn't go right away because my birthday was in May and I was like, it's, you know, it's sketchy at the hospital. I don't know if I want to be there. But I kept getting those reminders like you're overdue for your mammogram. So literally the reason I got my mammogram, which was later in that November, was because I was getting an email from Loyola saying, hey, you missed your mammogram. And I just was like, I'm tired of nagging me about it. Let me just go ahead and do it. And I'm so glad I did. But when my primary care physician called me, she was like, you know, your mammogram came back. It does look like you have breast cancer. And I said, Dr. Renner, who gets breast cancer on their first mammogram? She's like, I know. I said, I do too, because I looked it up. Less than 1% of people. Less than 1%. She's like, I know. I was like, and I would have to be a part of that number because why? Why not? You know, so I immediately had the attitude of why not me versus why me.
And you're exceptional.
So I was like, you know, and she knew that I had thyroid cancer, which is a whole nother thing, but and I think isn't something that's touched on enough either. I'm finding out with the triple negative breast cancer community that a lot of women that have triple negative breast cancer also have thyroid cancer. Now, I am always, you know, doing things backwards. I think all the other women that I've come across that said they had thyroid cancer, they had breast cancer first, thyroid cancer second. But, you know, I had thyroid cancer first, breast cancer second. But I think there's still so much that's like not really that's uncovered and you know, hasn't been explored enough. Like, what's the connection between? Or I talked to a lady today, Tasha, that would be sending you her information for intake. That she had experienced a history of having boils under her arm. only later to be diagnosed with breast cancer. I'm like, oh, I had that in my history too. Like, what are some of the interconnections that are not being discussed in the medical community that could be, precursors or foreshadowing what's to come that could help even prevent or better treat these, situations. So,
If I may interject, my apologies. We are doing a manual with the Tasha Joyner Foundation to identify precursors. So that's something that we're rolling out in 2023 with new programs that we're offering. We were talking about that at our butterfly meeting on Thursday, new programs that we're rolling out. And one of the most important one is to know your body and those precursors, those signs, because just like you, Deonna, my first mammogram at 36 was when I was diagnosed. So you just have to know your body. Yolanda was asking me, I don't think we heard her, my doctors, and I'm going to be sensitive to time. Dr. Kruger at Christ Hospital, amazing woman, amazing. Now, again, 19 years ago for me, Dr. Kruger was always there. I had her home address. I had her home phone number. We would talk at midnight, 2:00 in the morning. And she was amazing. So
yeah,
she's at Christ Hospital.
That will make women kind of say, especially because you guys are giving their doctors' names by name, it will make women say, well, I need you to be a little bit more like Dr. Garza. If you're not, I'll seek care somewhere else.
So, Tasha, I want to ask this. So you mentioned knowing your body. How do you gain this voice of knowing your body and like speaking up to your doctor or doctors in general? I think I was just thinking about myself. Sometimes going to the doctor, it's like, well, I don't want to say this, I don't want to talk about telling this,
How do you get over that?
Yeah, how do you get over that? Because it's like you know something could be wrong, but
Okay, so this is your body, body. You make the decision. Legislature and law cannot make a decision on what you do with your body. You are in control. And just like Shanette was saying, she knew. She decided to push through this and be a warrior and do everything. So when you're going into the doctor, you have to remember they're human just like you are.
Right.
They went to school to do whatever they're doing. They're practicing, but you are the professional. So you go in there and you tell them, this is happening, and this is happening. I need for you to look at this, check this out. Who do you recommend? Where can I go? I went to the doctor about 3 weeks ago. I had surgery 3 weeks ago. I went to the doctor and I told them, I do not want to be a number. Don't just give me 20 minutes of your time, because with COVID, they're behind and they only give you 20 minutes. Yeah. And I said, no, I don't want to have to pay a copay again to come see you for something that I didn't get a chance to talk about in this visit. So we're going to sit down here and we're going to talk about everything that I am experiencing with my body. And if you can't see me right now, give me someone who can. So you are in control. We're paying their salaries.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We're paying our copay and our premiums to our insurance, and our insurance is paying them through us. We're in control. So you gird up, you go in there, and you're the boss.
Amen.
That's how you feel like their answer, their bedside manner, their demeanor. If anything is off or doesn't sit well with you, find another doctor. And if you don't know how to do that, talk to somebody who does to help, get some help. Actually.
Yeah, you have to remember that. And then even with me, I took the initiative to switch up my treatment based on what I was feeling. One minute I've actually been off chemo since 2019, but I had to let my doctor know I'm feeling fine. My scans are good and I want to discontinue this, and let's do scans every 3 months and see what happened. And because of the history, she was fine with that. She says, okay, if this what you want to do, we're going to try it. And we tried it, and I've been off IV chemo since 2019. Now, had I not took that initiative to go in and say that, it was scary because I had to consider my health as well as my kids. It was taking a chance, but my voice, I'm going to be okay. In the back of my mind, you're going to be okay. So I have to just go out there and see and make that decision for me. And
I'm grateful to have a doctor that listens to me versus dictating and telling me what exactly I need to do. And we both came to an agreement, and I've been off, like I said, that med since 2019.
Wow, that's definitely incredible. That was, good information for anyone, not even just with breast cancer, just, navigating the medical field in general. Because I think a lot of people just don't either know how to use their voice or are afraid to. Because they're, like I said, when Deonna said that I'm getting a second opinion and a third opinion, I was like, well, wait, didn't the doctor say you need to do this?
Yeah.
So, why are you getting all these different opinions? And I'm so glad she did. And I learned so much from her, just watching her journey of how, you don't have to accept anything. You're, you are in control.
Yeah.
So I definitely love that about your journey. I'm like, okay, I could do that.
I have a question to pose to Yolanda, Bianca, and Shelly. As being women who support women who have this diagnosis and going through this journey, what advice would you give to someone on how to best support a loved one going through this cancer journey, or specifically, Yolanda, for artists who have the opportunity to emulate the lives of someone going through something? How would you, what advice would you give someone to, use their platform in support of any type of, cancer diagnosis or critical illness?